Good evening, everybody. So I'm giving this another go with trying to get it right this time with the live stream. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that any of my usual people that join Sofa Chats can come on the live and they'll see it in the live stream, and it will open it up for anyone that's never been on before. And yeah, let me see, where are we at? We've still got a minute to go. So I will just stay here because I'm kind of in the testing phase with this, guys. I got it wrong last week, which was unfortunate, but hopefully I've got it right this time. So I will just give it a minute or two. It's been such a hot day in Italy today. It got cloudy, but the heat was still there, so it was that kind of clammy way. But the weather's been lovely for the last few days, been really glorious. I think we're going to take another wee bump in the weather for a few days coming up, and then it's to start getting really warm again, 25, 27, etc. So yes, I am definitely looking forward to it, and I can't believe that I'm down to my last, what have I got, just literally just shy of 2 weeks. Yeah, that's all I've got left from my 2 months. Time really does fly. It's bizarre how quickly it goes. But yeah, here we are nonetheless. So, what are we at? We're at 8 o'clock, so I'll just give it another minute. For anyone that does join, a couple of just little reminders. This isn't coaching, it's not therapy, it's not a workshop, it's literally me reading from my book, Uncertainty is Your Superpower, and I read from specific chapters. I've just gone in chronological order for the first time doing it, and we share a little bit of deeper insight into the specific sessions. So if you're watching it on catch up, just remember to drop me a comment in the YouTube comment section to let me know if you've watched it on replay. Let me know any of your insights and thoughts. And yeah, give me a follow if you don't follow me already. So I think we will just get started, and I'll just hope that this is all working correctly. Fingers crossed. So, as you know, this is my book, Uncertainty is Your Superpower. There'll be information in the description if you want to buy it. So on Amazon, you can buy paper copy or Kindle version. For anyone that knows the book already, then you'll remember it's kind of like put into 3 sections, which is a bit like the 3 parts of how I moved through my life journey: release, reset, and rise. So release is where I went back through a lot of childhood things, reasons how I got to where I was at in life and where things were really difficult, and perhaps some of the reasons behind that, the sort of therapy side, the psychology behind it, etc. Then there was the mid-section, which was the reset. That's where I had the wake-up call. I started to take action. I made all the shifts in my life, in my business, and my career, and cleaned up my act basically and made a lot of changes. And then we started to move through to talking about different career opportunities, moving away from all permanent employment, starting a business, etc. And now we are officially in the rise section. And what we're talking about here is move towards your new future with confidence, ease, and strength. And for me, the whole purpose of splitting the book was to show that life does come in different tranches, and my whole business model is based on the release, reset, and rise, because to really be able to rise into your full potential, you do have to do that inner work, which is part of the release. It's the going back, it's doing the unlocking things that are keeping you stuck, your beliefs, your behaviors, all this kind of thing. And then the reset in the middle is where we really work on being present, which is really calm nervous system, building on our confidence, taking the daily actions, the habits, the behaviors that then will create the rise, which is the part where we're really moving into our full potential at the end of the day. So that is the chapter 12. And this one is called The Void, Learning to Be Okay. There's a strange stillness that comes after a period of momentum. You get a few early wins and you start to believe you might make it, but the fog rolls in again. That's how it felt. I'd gone from the high of launching my business supporting incredible clients, and finally living the freedom I dreamed of, to suddenly feeling again uncertain. Not panicky, just unclear. It wasn't fear exactly, and it definitely wasn't burnout. It was that quiet, disorientating middle space where your energy has shifted, but the vision hasn't landed yet. It was a fog, and it was a fog I would meet again and again until I learned how to acclimate to the experience. I felt like I was stumbling around with a blindfold on. I trusted there was a path ahead, but I couldn't see it. Not clearly. I was scared at times, but not in the old panic stricken way. The experience was different, more subtle, and even spiritual. I wasn't quite lost because I knew so much. My academic successes, the clients and income had started to flow in, but I couldn't quite put my finger on where I was either. I didn't know if whether to rest, to reset, or push harder. Looking back now, I can see it clearly. I was in a void, a necessary one, the first of many to come. Voids are part of the journey and the aspects people often don't share. The unsettling middle ground between the person you used to be and the person you're becoming. Your old life versus your new life. I was no longer in the corporate world, no longer in survival mode, no longer living in old identities, but I wasn't quite here yet either, not fully. I was still proving myself to myself. I was holding it all together on the outside. Client sessions, social media, content creation, networking. But inside I was feeling my way in the dark, letting things unfold, praying, watching, listening, and waiting. Every social media post I wrote felt like a guess, and every offer that I launched came with a voice saying, "What if nobody buys?" A loud pause followed every high note, every win followed by stillness. But here's the truth: I wasn't doing anything wrong, I was just in the void. And the void, as disorientating as it is part of the path. You can't know everything all the time, and if you did, you probably aren't challenging yourself enough. Sometimes you can only grow in the silence. Perhaps your next level simply needs space to arrive. It sounds easy to say, but when you really know yourself and trust who you are and that what you're doing on this planet, you can sit in that void without having a daily meltdown. It's a skill though, but it's one worth mastering. Sometimes the answers don't come until you finally stop asking either. That's what this season taught me. How to sit in the unknown without making it mean something is broken. And even though I didn't know it at the time, my next chapter was already on its way. Little did I know I was rising the whole time. I was in that space that I began to notice something else. Another whisper, another nudge. I couldn't ignore it. Something new was ahead. Was I prepared for another challenge so soon? Time would tell. And that's the end of that chapter. It was a short chapter, but I really want to read you the whisper. This isn't the end. It's the pause before the pivot. Surrender to it. Trust what feels still. Trust what feels still is actually forming. So this particular chapter actually reminds me quite a lot of where I am right now in this moment, because that time I was in that void, having to learn to trust myself, to not have a meltdown every 5 minutes about not knowing all the answers. That is a skill that if you can learn how to do that, you will be able to take risks. You'll be able to move yourself to different places in your life, to different situations, to take different actions if you can trust that you're still moving in the right direction. And anyone that's watching this on the replay, or if anyone here is live, if you have an experience where you felt like you've been in a void and perhaps you've sat in it and maybe you've had a meltdown in it, or perhaps you're in a void right now, or you feel like you're taking action and nothing's happening, or perhaps maybe even you just feel that you know you want something else, but that next version hasn't quite landed. Share it with me in the comments, or even just let me know if you're here. Say hi into the comments section. I'm doing a live stream for the first time through YouTube from my laptop, so I really can't tell if everything's working. I'm just taking a chance tonight, and there's another lesson that you can learn. We just learn as we go. Sometimes you can try things and try and get it perfect, and then it stops you actually taking action. But here I am tonight trying to get better than I did last week, which was completely didn't work last week. So I'm giving it another shot this week, and we'll see if it actually works. So if you're here, say a wee hello. That would be really helpful. Oh, hi Denise, thank goodness it's working. A friendly face. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. So to do a little bit of deeper digging about the void and about that feeling of, am I lost? I mean, how often do we ask ourselves that question? And I think we could easily say regularly, oh, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing. But I guess that I'd get you to think about, are you really lost? Or is life just moving in a way that you can't quite see the end result yet, which gives us that feeling of instability, uncertainty, living in the unknown? And that in itself isn't always the easiest thing to do, but it is a skill set that if you master it, you will be able to keep going even when things feel difficult. So for example, when I first arrived here in Italy, I didn't have a foolproof plan. In fact, actually, this was earlier this year when I was in Portugal. And before I left Portugal in the middle of February, I was going to London after that for a couple of weeks. But I knew that I didn't want to return to Scotland for a long period of time because it's not what I'm looking for now. I knew I had to figure out a plan, but I didn't know what that looked like. But it didn't stop me going to Portugal and making that part of my journey happen. So the next part of the journey is, where am I going next? So I booked Italy, and then at the same time, I also reached out to people that would potentially be an inroad for me down south, so that when I come back to the UK, I'm not then coming back to Scotland, and then that would take me into my time to come back to Italy. So I guess what I'm saying with this is, I didn't know in January 100% how this was going to map out, but I didn't stop myself taking a baby step forward, because when we think we're lost and we're in this void state, quite often our nervous system gets completely dysregulated. We want to go inward. We stop looking at the facts. We stop planning because we feel that we're in a guddle. But in actual fact, if you just strip it right back and say, okay, where exactly am I right now? Like in this moment, what is actually going on for me? And what are the things that I'm trying to achieve? So for me, it was mapping out a journey where I had somewhere to live for a prolonged period of time to take me between Italy and coming back to Italy, because, yeah, obviously got the 90-day rule. So I have to be out for 3 months if I want to come back again for 3 months. So that to me, when I was in Portugal, was feeling like a void. So I wrote this book, and this chapter is based on many, many, many months before that. But if you remember in the book, I say I had to acclimatise to living in a fog, to living in a void, because I have dealt with so many more voids since that time that if I hadn't got good at it, I'd have had a meltdown in Portugal about not knowing where I was going to go. But actually what happened was I just sat down, I reached out to people. I got back in contact with old contacts that I'd known from down south in Oxford, and I made the decision to book Italy. So that then took me the first 2 months. And then once that was underway, I then started to make connections again with Oxford. And while I was in Italy, I spoke to the woman who I met previously, and it all came together. And she's like, yep, that's it. Come here for 3 months. So I'll go home and enjoy my birthday celebrations Then I'll go to Oxford for 3 months after just being in Italy for 2, and then I'll go back to Italy for 3 months once I've done my 3 months in England. So my point of this is you're not going to know everything, but see if you can just plan and take 1 or 2 steps forward. You will pull yourself out of that feeling that I feel lost. But equally, you have to recognise that if you're taking baby steps and you're taking little actions, you've probably been dropping seeds for months and months, perhaps longer, that haven't had the chance to germinate fully and come up through the soil. So you might be sitting thinking right now, gosh, things are not quite going to plan. I've looked into X, Y, and Z. I don't really know where I'm going. But if you can trust that you have taken actions and you know roughly some kind of idea where you're going, that's some kind of direction. Like for me, it was travel plans and having a stable base. So I might not know what that looked like originally, but I knew what I wanted. If we have some direction, is it I want a new job? Is it that I want to feel really content and good about myself and feel happy in my life? Is it I would love to take up a new hobby and I would love to have the confidence to be in groups of people that I don't know? I don't know what it is for you, because not everybody wants the life that I've got and wouldn't want it, trust me, because it's not all easy breezy all the time. It's about figuring out what it is that you want and then taking it all the way back to the start. Like for me, what is it I truly want? Right, I want to be in Italy. Right, let's get on and get the apartment booked, book the flights. And once you've done that, that's a 2-month runway. Then we can move on to the next bit. That's how I pull myself out of any void. I trust that I've taken baby steps and that I trust that things are going to unfold. And ever since I've been in that position in life where I've had the ability to do that, I wouldn't say it's been a plain sailing all the time, but I've never fallen into a complete meltdown like I might have done in the past. So that's what I would say about the void. And I'd love to get anybody's input, thoughts. If you've been in a void, how did you get through it? Do you feel you're in a void right now? In fact, I'll take a wee look at some of the reflections in this one. So these are in the book for anyone that doesn't have it or is interested. It's Uncertainty is Your Superpower. It's my book. You can get it on Kindle or paperback. And inside every chapter, there's a whisper, which I read tonight, and then it's followed by some journal prompts. They're worth going over them because they'll pull out a different level of depth, because this book is actually, the book is a mirror. So whilst it's my life, I wanted it to be, it's not a self-help book. It's about seeing your life through a different lens, because when you read, there'll be things in it and you think, oh gosh, yeah, I can relate to that. It's not the same situation, but I can relate to that experience or that feeling. And actually I can see a different perspective on how I might want to move forward now. That's what the book's for. And it also, as I said, has all the journal prompts in it. So one of them is, where in your life are you being asked to sit in the unknown rather than force clarity? And I wonder, anyone that's chatting on here tonight or anyone into the comments, then by all means, please, again, let me know. I'd love to hear if you feel that you are struggling with that. You're trying to push and force clarity, because that's where I've been in the past. There's a safety in knowing all the answers. There's a complete safety in that feeling that you, well, how do you say, it's like, it's just that feeling of, I can see 20 steps ahead and I know where I'm going. I don't have to think every day. Whereas now my life is, I'm constantly having to think about something that a lot of people will take for granted, which is, where am I going to live? So I have a house in Scotland, but it's rented out. So it's like I don't have a house anymore. And I joke and laugh and say, oh, I'm like the littlest hobo. But honestly, pretty much. Because I don't want to go home. And whilst I love staying at my mum's, it's great and she's so generous and I've got my own room and it's so good to be near my family. Long term, that's not a strategy. Not going back to my mum's for 3 months at a time. So I'm always in that place of, I need a few steps forward, but I'm not trying to force the bigger picture. So let's say, for example, I would like a visa to stay here, and I'm starting to look into that again. It never worked out last year, so I'm starting again this year. And I could sit here and tie myself in knots about the different red tape that I've got to get through, and maybe where my situation doesn't conform to one type of visa, maybe conforms with another. And I could tie myself in knots all day long about what's not possible. Or I can tell myself that by 2027, that's where I would like the goal, that I'm starting a full year here. So what does that give me? That gives me from now at the beginning of May all the way to the end of the year, where I've already got it mapped out that I'll be in Scotland for a month, Oxford for 3, back to Italy for 3, and then I'm at the end of the year. So I have got the stability, so I don't need to worry. So I've set that out. So I've removed that feeling of the void because I've made a plan. That's freed my head up to be able to then start planning with the visa, and I can take my time out to sit down and get all the information. So there's no point in trying to force something that you can't control, but you do have to be able to look at where have I planted the right seeds? That's one of the key things. So if I was to sit and say, I've got a problem with a visa, I don't know how to do it, or I really want a visa and it's just too complicated. If I was just procrastinating, then that's on me. But what I'm doing is I've joined a membership group. It's all about moving to Italy. There's lots of information in it. There's people come on and give talks about the tax and all the different bureaucracy. So no, I don't have a visa today. No, I'm probably not going to have a visa in 3 months. Probably not going to have a visa by the time I'm coming back in September. But the point is, I don't have to have it by then because everything is mapped out. And I have to put my faith in that if it's meant to be with a visa, it will happen. And I'm taking the right actions now, which is being in the right environments to support me with that kind of information. So I guess I would ask you, what's the next one? What story do you tell yourself when things slow down or feel unclear? I'd love to hear this in the comments, whether it's here in the live stream or in YouTube comments when I put the video in there. What story do you tell yourself when things slow down or feel unclear? Because that narrative that you are fulfilling is the one that is driving the outcome. So if you tell yourself when things are unclear, I'm stuck, I don't know how to get out of it, I've got nobody to help me, I don't know where to turn, then that is likely where you will stay for a prolonged period of time. Or if you're telling yourself, actually, I don't quite know how to get a visa yet, and I don't really know how it's going to actually work out. But what I do know is I'm taking all the necessary steps that I know to take. And where I don't know the information, I'm joining a group that can furnish me with that information. So that's the story I'm telling myself, which is I don't know what's going to happen. It's not going to stop me coming to Italy, but I have restrictions around that, but I'll still be here. But the ultimate situation is going to be around the fact that I'm taking the baby step actions. That's how you get yourself out of being stuck and in that feeling of I'm in a complete haze. So what's the third one we've got here? How might you see this void season as preparation rather than a pause? Yeah, that's quite a good one actually, because it falls into the same story I'm telling you about the visa. With every void, if you've been planting seeds, then bringing that level of trust to yourself is actually you been setting yourself up. So as much as you're in a pause phase where you think, God, I've been doing X, Y, and Z and nothing's happening, if you have been actually taking small actions, then you can put your trust in that there's a reason why I've been asked to slow down right now. It's not about the push, but I have planted seeds away along the way, which is actually preparing me for the clarity when the time comes. Because I think I say this to a lot of people actually, we don't get what we want when we want it. We get it when it's divinely aligned for us to get it. So just because I want a visa tomorrow doesn't mean I won't get a visa. It just probably won't be tomorrow. It might be the end of the year. It might be next year. So I can't force something to happen, but what I can do is take the steps and the actions to take me closer to what that looks like. So let's see where we're at. We're just a few minutes to go. If anyone wants to share anything, then feel free in the comments, because I've done a lot of the talking tonight. Let me see what else we've got in here. I talk about this in the book, actually. I say there that voids are part of the journey, and the bits that people don't often share. It's the unsettling middle ground between the person you used to be and the person you're becoming, your old life versus your new life. Now, I know whoever is watching this, you will know where you've had old versions of you and wanting to shift to a new version, knowing that you're almost there, but still not quite clear on what that looks like. And then probably time has passed since then, and you've actually reached that destination. Proof that the old you versus the version you're stepping into is entirely possible. Yeah, they're saying absolutely, Denise. So, I definitely know that old life versus the new life. Just because I don't have all my ducks in a row doesn't mean that I haven't landed in my new life. I don't have a visa for permanent residence. Don't have a permanent apartment. I'm in the midst of making different choices in my business because I have that luxury to be able to do that. And being in Monopoly in Italy is like a godsend for the energy, and the vibe is really helpful for that. But where I'm not, and I mean by a million miles, I am not the girl that was doing an 8 to 4 in a corporate world. I'm also not the girl that spent 4 years nearly taking herself out emotionally and mentally and physically with a degree and a college course and volunteering and working shift work in the NHS for 4 years. For 2 more years. So that was 4 years in total with the studying. 2 of them I was in the NHS. And I was talking to somebody about that tonight. I graduated in 2019. We're now in 2026. I'm living half of the year in a foreign country with the desire to have a permanent residence. Didn't know that then, but always knew that I was continually moving into a version of myself. When I used to pet sit, I did that it was like the bridge to where I am now. And when I was pet sitting, I still wasn't landing. It wasn't fully landing that I would have this flexibility abroad. And I remember watching a cat and a dog in Rome. I had a week there, and I was like a tourist in essence because I went to see all the sights. But the point is, I knew after that trip, I was like, the next time I go away, I want to be away for much longer. A week's not long enough. So my next time was 2 months in Oxford. So that got me the length that I wanted, the length of time. So then I knew after that, I was like, I need to be doing something big here in the following year. I did my first ever solo month in Italy. And well, the rest is history. You'll find out what's coming up in the book if you haven't read it already, or if you don't know me. It's like the void was there all the time, the fog, the lack of clarity. But because I trusted myself, because I continued to take baby steps forward through regulating my nervous system, working on old stories and narratives, releasing old beliefs that don't serve me, stretching myself out my comfort zone, reminding myself every day that I've absolutely got this, anchoring myself to the day that I walked onto the stage and collected my scroll for my degree, because it was the culmination of years of transformation. So all of these things put together are what helped me take the baby steps. What is it in your life that you can look at and think, God, remember when this was my dream and this was my goal? Look at me now. Look where I am now. So if I've got to this point, where is it I want to go next? And it is entirely available to you, because if you go through that process, the release, the reset, The rise is there, but the rise will be higher because you've done all that back work, because you've done all that learning to reset and regulate your nervous system. The ability to rise higher is significant in comparison to what it would have been if you haven't done that work in yourself. And that's why I always bring it back to that, because people can move forward with their goals, but if you can't regulate your nervous system, if you can't recognize old stories and narratives that are keeping you stuck, you will stay in the fog. You will stay stuck in a void and not do anything about it. But when you trust yourself, when you feel connected and you feel that you know that whatever decisions you make, they're all for the greater good for you, then you will keep moving forward and shock yourself, I'm pretty sure, about what is actually entirely possible for you. So that is my little summary on that chapter tonight. It was a short chapter, so I was obviously talking a lot about being in the void and sharing a bit about my story. It would be, if you want to join along for more of the lives, please subscribe to the channel. That really does help. And yeah, it was great to have you on. Drop a comment and let me know if you watched it in the replay. It would be good to let me know who's here. And if there's anything else that you need from me, all my details are in the description with links to my website and to my book and to a couple of little freebies that's in there as well. So thanks very much for joining tonight. I will see you all next week for another live. Bye for now.